This Social Security measure gives at least some protection
for anybody to hand this out. We're asking for a chance to have the people who will receive the benefit to earn their way. The same principle established under the Social Security system in the 30s.
It is no longer acceptable to discuss women's rights as separate from human rights.
I know we can come together to face down the challenges of our own time.
Welcome back to the Democrats. I'm David Campbell, here with my co-host Cindy Rosenwald.
Welcome back.
And I just wanted to say that we are really pleased to be here today with David Cote. David Cote is one of the senior representatives in the House of Representatives. He's in the top 5 in seniority. He's running for his 15th term. 16th term. And I just want to say that I met David a long time ago. When I first moved to Nashua in 1982, having served 2 terms from Newport myself in the legislature, David ran in 82, and I met him then. I've known him ever since. David, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. We both had more hair then, I think.
Yeah, you're doing better in that category than I am.
I don't know about that.
So tell us what it's like to be such a senior member of the legislature and the changes you've seen over the 30 years you've been there.
Well, actually, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I don't sit around constantly thinking about how long it's been. There are some days it's pretty obvious how long it's been, and then there are other days. The changes, I remember Dan Healy telling me when I was in my first term in the House, and Dan Healy had been in the House since 1945, and actually he ended up being the longest-serving legislator in the country.
Wow.
Ever, right?
And, yeah, and he told me, I asked him that question once about what was the biggest change that he had seen, and he told me that the biggest change he had seen was that in those days the rules meant something, and those days that we were currently talking in, if people wanted to, didn't like something about the rules, they would suspend the rules anytime they wanted to, and just basically do it. He was talking about that. It was fascinating to talk to him about the people that he had known and that sort of inside story of what happened in the legislature in those days.
Well, now you're the veteran legislator who can counsel the young representatives as you do. So what, of all the bills that you've dealt with, what's the most memorable that you ever dealt on or sponsored or worked on?
Well, I try to do, I only tend to sponsor bills that my constituents ask me to do. The most memorable one of those easily is a young man who actually wasn't a constituent of mine, was a friend of a constituent of mine, got a call one day that this young man had Lou Gehrig's disease. And he had been refused the opportunity to get a crossbow hunting license because he had not yet lost the use of his hands, and he had applied for it because he'd been diagnosed. And the Department of Fish and Game refused him handicapped crossbow license. He had lost some of his motor skills, but he had not totally lost the use. And the law at that time said that you had to have lost the use of one or more of your hands in order to get a crossbow license. Basically what we did is I brought him in before the Fish and Game Committee, I think it was, and we were able to change the law so that it accommodated people like him, and he was able to get a crossbow license, and he was able to hunt for one final hunting season.
Did he get his deer?
I believe he did.
That's
actually.
great.
And you know, this is bow and arrow deer season
right now.
Just
sure.
started, I think, a couple days ago.
Well, actually, I don't, because I represent an inner city ward, so it's not something I think.
Not a lot of deer down on
no, I don't tend to see
on West Hollis Street.
But
no.
hunting is an important part of New Hampshire's history and culture and really economy.
Well, the really interesting thing about that is he never forgot that I had done that for him, and he was able to do it. And I still actually hear from family members of his.
And that's part of the reward of all of us working in legislatures, being able to help out constituents.
Well, I mean, I really think it's the best thing about the job is that you're able to help people with problems that they have with state government and get them information about state government. It's really the most interesting and rewarding part of the job.
Now, David, you're a former chair of the Judiciary Committee, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. tell us what that committee's like for our viewers and what your experience was both as a member and as the chairman of that committee.
Well, we do laws relating to the obviously the judiciary and sometimes other more controversial issues. The experience was quite remarkable because at one time I had thought I was never going to see a Democrat as the chair of a committee. I said one day I had the experience of having, when we passed the law many years ago prohibiting homosexuals from donating blood during the first part of the AIDS epidemic. It was probably the worst experience I can remember having because it was based basically on people's fear, understandable fear. And I was the chair of the committee when, that was repealed. I was not the chair of the committee when that was repealed. I was the chair of the committee when we did some related bills, and I was there long enough to actually see civil unions and marriage equality pass. And to go from a period where you have somebody saying that things like a senator during the hearing on the blood bill said that it was okay if homosexuals gave blood as long as they gave all their blood, to being the chair of the same committee when we did civil unions and marriage equality. It was quite an experience.
What was the last session like on judiciary, this last 2-year period?
I actually wasn't on judiciary during the last 2 years. I was on election law.
Election law,
Yeah.
that's right.
It was, well, of course, it's different when you've had the experience of running a committee and being back in the minority again. But obviously, I'd had many years of experience being in the minority, so it, it wasn't. It was kind of like returning to what I was more familiar with in a way.
The tone, did you sense a difference in the tone?
Well, of course, there was a difference in the sense that you had a majority this last time who were very intent on a very narrow series of ideological goals, and you like to see the process work with more bipartisanship and more civility amongst the members, and I was sorry about that.
Yeah, that was missing this term. Well, I think we've pretty much run out of time. Thanks for coming down here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Yep.
I'm Cindy Rosenwald.
I'm David Campbell, and thanks for joining us. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next segment of The Democrats. Bye-bye.